All right, today we're cracking open a case file. And this one, well, it's a story that unfolds over 20 years. And it's going to make us ask a really tough, pretty terrifying question about the power of the state.
I want you to just imagine something for a second. What if you woke up one day and, as far as the government was concerned, you just didn't exist anymore? Sounds like something out of a movie, right? But for two citizens in Italy, this wasn't fiction. It was their reality, a total bureaucratic nightmare.
So, this is the story of Matteo and Giovanna. And we're going to walk through what happened to them, but we're going to do it like human rights lawyers. We'll look at the evidence, what the state did, and exactly which laws they broke, one step at a time. Okay, so Section 1, the denial of justice. Every story has a beginning, right? And for Matteo and Giovanna, it all started when they asked for help. They didn't commit a crime. They were victims asking for protection. But that plea, it just vanished. This is basically the first count in our case file. So let's rewind to November 2004. Matteo and Giovanna are victims of corporate sabotage. And they do what any of us would do. They go to the authorities. They file an official complaint. They send in evidence, documents, doing everything by the book. But here's where it gets crazy. Instead of getting an investigation, their paperwork just disappears. We're talking 7 official documents sent to the prosecutor's office that just get lost. And then, case closed. Just like that. And this is a perfect picture of what they call the muro di gomma in Italy, the rubber wall. You send in your official complaints, your registered letters, and they just hit this invisible wall and bounce right off. Nothing sticks, no response, no investigation, nothing. It's the first clue that the system isn't just broken, it's actively pushing back. Okay, so from a human rights perspective, this is where the first red flags go up. Big ones. When the state loses your official documents, that's a direct hit on Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights, your right to a fair trial. And when they just dismiss the case without even looking into it, that violates Article 13, your right to an effective remedy. Basically, the system didn't just fail them, it locked them out completely. But believe it or not, things are about to get a lot worse. We're moving from the state just ignoring them to the state actively going after them. This is where the protector really does become the persecutor. Get this, August 2010. It's the middle of the night. The police raid their temporary apartment. They drag Matteo out, barefoot, and forcibly separate him from Giovanna. The very next day, he's hit with an expulsion order, not because he committed a crime, but based on completely false accusations. And here's the really critical part. In all that chaos, all their personal belongings, including the original documents and evidence from their legal fight, are lost, gone. And let's be absolutely clear about this. This wasn't a legal eviction. There was no warrant, no court order. This was an action by state police, completely outside the law. In a single night, the Italian state made 2 of its own citizens homeless. This is the real beginning of what we call their civil death. And boom, there's another major violation. We're talking Article 8 of the European Convention, the right to respect for your private life and your home. Your home is supposed to be untouchable, a sanctuary. The government can't just bust down your door and kick you out without any legal process. This was a direct, illegal intrusion into the most private part of their lives. So now they've lost their home, they've definitely lost any faith in the justice system, and just when you think it can't get any worse, they're about to lose the only thing they have left, their actual identity. This is the final step in their erasure. I mean, listen to this quote. Giovanna goes to a doctor for help, and the doctor, after checking the system, just looks at her and says, "You do not exist." That's not a figure of speech. He means it literally. Her name was gone from the health databases. She had become a ghost in the machine. So how on earth does that even happen? Well, it's a piece of bureaucracy called residency cancellation. And here's the twisted logic. Because the state illegally made them homeless, the system then used their homelessness as the reason to officially erase them from the resident registry. It's a perfect vicious circle. And once you're erased from that registry, your entire world just falls apart. Think about it. You can't get a family doctor. You can't get a legal job. You can't sign a lease for an apartment. You lose your right to vote. You can't get any kind of social assistance. You are, for all intents and purposes, stateless inside your own country. Totally cut off. And this is where we get to the most serious charge we can level against the state. This is a violation of Article 3, the prohibition of inhumane and degrading treatment. Because let's face it, when a government makes you homeless and then deletes your identity, that's not just a clerical error. The European Court of Human Rights is very clear on this. It's cruel. It's an attack on the very core of your human dignity. So you have to ask yourself, was this just a comedy of errors, a string of terrible, unlucky mistakes? Or was it something more? In this last part, we're going to look at how this wasn't an exception. It was the rule. The pattern of behavior is the evidence. Okay, so for 7 long years, they lived as legal ghosts. In 2018, after a massive struggle, they actually managed to get their legal status back. You'd think that's the end, right? Happy ending? Not at all. In 2022, Giovanna is being exploited at work. She goes to the police to file a report, and they refuse to take it. That rubber wall, it was still standing.
And that's when you realize this isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. The lost documents back in 2004, the illegal raid in 2010, the refusal to take a complaint in 2022, it's all one continuous line. It shows a system that, when it feels threatened, circles the wagons and attacks the very people it's supposed to protect.
And I think that's really the key thing to take away from all this. When we think of human rights violations, we usually picture something physical. But this story shows you that the most effective weapons can be paperwork, bureaucracy, a policy of just being silent. And that silence isn't an accident. It's a form of torture designed to wear you down until you just quit. So it all comes down to this really uncomfortable question, doesn't it? We all count on the state to protect our rights. But what do you do when the state itself is the one attacking you? Where do you go when the police, the courts, and all the government offices form a single, solid wall you can't get through? This isn't just some crazy story about 2 people in Italy. It's a wake-up call about just how fragile our own rights might be.